please agree to allow me to record this. Um, okay, cool. Let's go ahead and get started. If you're watching the replay, so this is the note for the replay people. We just basically are doing kind of the introduction here of each other in the chat. Chat transcript is recorded, so you can see everybody's handles and what they do if you want to connect on another level outside of this. So first of all, for those of you who don't know me, I am Anastasia. I am I'm super in love with everything marketing. Can't ever shut up about it. So hence I started a business. I used to be a yarn dyer. I knit, I crochet. I went to shearing school. I have a spinning wheel and I have a drop spindle and I have tons of roving and I don't touch it, but I have it. Like I have all the things. Like I do all the things that we all do, right? Like you start with one activity and then you start down the rabbit hole to all the other activities. And then you realize, oh wait, time is limited and finite. So I'm not really sure where I want to start to navigate these things. So needless to say, I did not end up becoming a full-time shearer of sheep. I also do not own any sheep, so really it doesn't make much sense. I also have no arm muscles, so again, not much logic in actually trying to do that. But I did learn some things about fleeces. And anyway, so I am the founder of the Fiber Business Collective, so that is our membership program, which again, loads of y'all are already in here. But we are a group that actually caters to all the arms of the fiber arts industry. So we're not just designers, we're not just tech editors. And to be honest, I don't know if I've seen any other groups that do the same thing. So we might be one of the only ones out there. And it's really great as a result because we learn so much from each other because we desperately need each other in this industry, right? There's so much collaboration and like, you know, if you're a shepherd, you can't, I mean, like you need the either the dyers or you need the designers or you need the people who want to actually knit with yarn, you need the mills. As you know, like it all just kind of trickles down. Like if you're a designer, you need your tech editor, you need XYZ. So we all need each other. And I think it's really nice to see kind of us all come together in that aspect and learn how to support each other in different ways. And then we also, no, that's it. That's all I had to say about that. And then I also have started an agency side of things called Make One Right Marketing. And that basically gives me the ability to do marketing for businesses that don't have the time to do it themselves. So usually they've grown a little bit more of a team or they've just completely tapped out on time and energy resources. So that's kind of where I come in. Okay. So, all right, I want to do like a creative writing prompt, right? Like I don't normally do these, but I took a free workshop with Amy Walsh. I don't know if anyone's familiar with her. She does, I believe it's called like the Branding Syndicate. So she's like a really quirky, fun branding kind of human being, loves creativity. But she did this exercise once, and I thought it was absolutely hysterical. Of like, okay, if you really get down and you get creative, right? Like, what is the worst / almost mildly offensive tagline that you can think of for your business? So if you would like an example of this. So in the collective, we have my assistant coach is Jen Parasini. She is a designer who focuses on like very intricate patterns and a lot of technical design and know-how. And we were talking about it for hers, and she was like, okay, so her tagline is JP knits things for when you want knitting to feel like work. And like, I'll just like that because it's so funny, because it's so true. It's like it's not an easy, relaxing, meditative pattern. Anything that she does, it's like, yeah, it's definitely a lot of work. Oh, here she comes. She's gonna come in. She didn't get to hear me make my joke. And then yeah. So if you come up with a good one, if you come up with a good tagline, bad tagline, please share it in the chat because I really love a good laugh. And you can come up with multiple iterations of these. Sometimes it takes like going through a few of them to be like, oh, okay. It's a good way to kind of like poke fun at yourself. Sometimes a good way to poke fun at your ideal customer. But it's just a way to kind of like relax a little bit about it. Keenan hand-dyed yarn. A retired mom dyes shit. Yes. Yes. That sounds just about right. Just about right. And it's too bad because some of this stuff, like because it's so funny, would be great for selling, but we don't always like to choose those because they don't make us sound as quote unquote professional. Jen, I already shared yours, so I shared it right before you came in. No more ugly crochet. Now, Connie, we've told you actually need to use that though. Because like, who in here like immediately goes, oh yeah, definitely. I definitely get that. There's so much ugly crochet out there. You got to do it, Connie. You just got to do it. And you want someone else to obsess over your pattern warning. You need someone else to overthink for you. All right, I don't want to stay on this too long. But if you do, it's not really nice sweater. Sorry. Knitting patterns for when you want your brain to melt. Brain melting brioche. That's Jen over there. Brain melting brioche. Replacing your lost childhood memories. I don't know whether to laugh or cry at that one, Tasha. Okay. These are good. This is a really good exercise, I think. I think it's fun to let loose a little bit. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and get into it now. Patterns for when you're really into your nerdy fandom, but too embarrassed to admit it. You guys, seriously, like, find a way to use these things because, like, when we let loose, like, they really end up being very positive, I think. I mean, like, I like a lot of these, and I think that there are ways that you could adapt certain elements of them into, like, what you really say about your business. So, okay. So when we talk about positioning statements, the one thing that I want to say is that it sounds really dry. Like, I know it does. So the fact that 24 of you are here is actually a very good thing, because positioning statements are incredibly important. And they are really a way, especially if you're somebody who's struggling with figuring out like what is special about me, what is special about what I do. There's so many people that do what I do, so why should anyone choose me over my competition? And that's really the core of what this line does. Now, I do want to give a very strong disclaimer here that this line, this statement, which you do not need to necessarily fill out or try to write it right now, right? You can write the formula down if you would like, but don't try to actually fill in it because we're going to go through this step by step so that you can have like a full-fledged positioning statement. But with this statement, it is an internal statement, right? Nobody has to see this but you and anyone that you choose to work with now or in the future. So you will see, like, what I use these massively. I use these with every single client on the agency side of what I do. And the reason is because on a larger business, right, whether that's just 2 people versus 200 people, versus thousands of people within a corporation, like, they use these because you've got, you want to keep cohesive branding in everything that you do within the marketing of your business. And if you're a multi-million-dollar business, which we don't really have many of those in this industry, but hopefully we can change that, right? But the idea is that there are people who are going to come in and out of your marketing team all the time. It's like a revolving door. So what is the thing that's going to keep everybody grounded in the understanding of what this brand is and stands for and how it needs to present itself going forward? So that's why it's really helpful for me to do these statements with all of my clients, because anyone that works on my team, then I can hand them the information about the brand itself or the company. They can look through it and say, okay, I know how we're going to develop a plan going forward, knowing that this is how the company needs to be presented, or the brand or the work needs to be presented in order to stand out, right? Like, so that's the thing, is that, it's a saturated market, right? Like, and it feels discouraging to hear that, but I don't know if this is any more encouraging to hear or not, but every market is saturated, right? Like every market is saturated. It's very easy to start your own business these days. I say easy because like you can literally just claim like I'm going to start a business, versus in the past it probably wouldn't have been quite as simple to do so. So we have the age of the internet. Everything is more readily accessible. We have more exposure to more brands. We also have a lot more choices. And as we become to receive more choices, like as more choices are thrown at us, then we tend to get something that's called decision fatigue. And decision fatigue means that we don't want to make choices. So we will tend to move towards brands and move towards companies that really stick out to us, because it's just easier for our brain, right, to lock on to those things that we immediately are connecting with. So your positioning statement is a way for you to know how you are going to connect with your customers going forward. Does that make sense so far? Ish? Okay. Okay. So again, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. I will try to catch them as we go through. The positive too here is that, that we are a creative industry. So positioning statements are a way for us to be creative, and marketing is a way for us to be creative. It's a different type of creativity than we thought we were going to engage in when we walked into owning a business, but it is a way to express it nonetheless. And I think if you start to really embrace it as such, as a way to be creative and have fun, right? Like you don't have to have a funny brand, but to like be able to have fun and to play, right? Like to play with words, to play with phrases, to play with things like we did in that previous exercise. It gives you the ability to kind of to be more flexible, right? And to come up with things that you maybe wouldn't have on your own. Deirdre asks, would your personal ethos or mission be something to work into the positioning statement? Possibly. If it's something that makes you stand out from your competition, then yes. So maybe I should start with things that are not very unique in this industry, and things that I would recommend avoiding. And this is not a jab at anybody, because a lot of us use these phrases. A lot of us have used these phrases. So let's talk about things that we probably want to put to the side right away. The word meditative, the word mindfulness, talking about how patterns that are easy, but they look like they were hard. That's a really common one. Natural mental health. I've seen some people do mental health okay, but that's because they're actual licensed therapists who are also maybe designers or otherwise. Soothing, yeah, Jen's jumping in here because she sees all this with me. We work on this stuff a lot. Calming, relaxing, those kinds of things. Inspired by nature. Inspired by nature is a huge pet peeve of mine because it doesn't mean anything. It's such a throwaway term. I do think that some people have designs that are inspired by nature, but I want to see the proof in the pudding, right? Like I want to actually know what that context is and how it actually comes forth, right? So if you say that you are, using a piece of nature as inspiration for a pattern, I want to see exactly why. Why is that inspired in this way, right? So I just have a really hard time with people who say it's inspired by nature, because literally everything is, right? Pretty much everything is, unless it's inspired by a book, which I get that even less because books don't really talk about colors that much. Sometimes, but anyway, I could go on and on. But those are some things that I would probably say, like, taking those elements and putting them to the side, because if everyone, right, like if everyone is using those, that's the issue here. If everybody else and their dog is saying the same thing, then what's to make somebody choose you over someone who does something similar to you? So that's what we need to do. We need to be rising above that. So if everyone else is talking about stitches being meditative, great, that's cool. It doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that it's not how you need to talk about your work, right? It means that you need to find a different way to talk about your work. And we do have the, okay, Brittany says, I'm so glad you're mentioning these words because they have always felt empty to me. And I assume because I'm being negative. And no, it's not negativity. I mean, It's just that we've been beat over the head with it so many times. Like, how many books are there on like mindfulness and slow living and all of that kind of stuff? Like, there's, it's just gotten so trendy that it's just throwaway, right? It's throw. It doesn't mean anything anymore. So you have to find the meaning in the work that you're doing and how that's going to connect to someone and make you stand apart from everyone else. So even if that's just like sassy remarks, like Connie's, right? Connie talking about how, like, I design crochet patterns that are not ugly. It's kind of funny. Like, it's kind of funny, but it's kind of funny because it's kind of true, because a lot of crochet patterns aren't really that pretty. There are some, right? But you do have to kind of dig a little bit for them. And so, if you put yourself out there saying that, then, that's the thing that makes you stand out. It's not necessarily like, oh, they're so arrogant, or, oh, they're just being an asshole about everybody else. It's really, no, it's like they're going to remember that. It's memorable. And that's what you need to be. You need to be memorable. And thinking about some of the brands that you like, you each individually like and are drawn to. Like, what are some of those things that draw you to a company? Like, do you purchase from companies because of the way that they write in their emails? Do you purchase from them because of their value systems, because of their beliefs, because of what they stand for, because of how they present themselves in the world, because of the colors they use? There's so many different other aspects of why we choose brands above and beyond, like, oh, this is a nature-inspired brand. It's like, okay, cool. So anyway, so yeah, if it feels empty, then the marketing isn't working for you. Completely correct. And Amanda does branding as well, so it's very helpful to have her in here. So please feel free to chime in as much as you'd like, Amanda. Okay, we're going to start with my absolute favorite question, which is absolutely everybody's least favorite question. And that is, who is your ideal customer? So here's the thing. You need one. Even if you don't think you do, you do. And what I would say is that for this particular exercise, I don't need you to go into like the depths of, creation of thinking of like every single little thing about your customer. Give me some high level things, right? Like, what kind of a person are they? Do they have, let's see, like, do they have a specific belief system? Are they a mom? Are they a pet lover? Are they a plant lover? I was doing some branding work for Our Maker Life, and we did a big survey, and literally every single person was like pro plants. It was like, okay, we know that plants are a huge hit with Our Maker Life audience members. It was like thousands of people. It was hilarious. But some of those higher, when I say higher level, I mean just kind of like top of the line, which is literally me saying the same thing again. Broader statements, slightly more demographical, but you don't have to go into like, oh, they own a French bulldog and they go on walks with their partner every morning through Central Park because they are also really into birds. Like, you don't have to get that detailed, but take a couple of minutes and think about it. If you are struggling, here are three things that I would recommend. And I'm also, too, when I send out this replay, which, yes, there will be a replay, I will send out a list of resources that I have for finding an ideal customer or building one out for yourself. But the three things that I would usually recommend building on is either if you have what Jen calls a hero customer, Jen Parasini calls a hero customer, meaning you have somebody who comes back and buys from you consistently. Like, model it off of them, right? Like, the person who's already giving you all of their money, that's the person you want, right? Like, we want more of those. Not in a mean way, but because they love what you do, right? Like, they're not buying from you because they feel like they're being manipulated. They're buying from you because they love the work that you put out. So those are the ones that we want more people who believe in the work that we do. Additionally, you can also model off of who you want to be your ideal customer. My favorite jokey example of this is Oprah. Like, if you really want Oprah to be like, to buy your knitting patterns, then, you have to really consider, okay, so what about Oprah? Like, does Oprah even knit? Am I going to have to teach her how to knit? Am I have to like get her to the point where she's going to want to knit my patterns? Like, knowing who that is and what stage you're going to have to get them on to buy from you, which is the next workshop, by the way, journey mapping on Wednesday, is important. Or the other thing that you can choose is a version of yourself in the past. We don't ever want to model it on who we are now. And that's because then we become too focused on what we want in our businesses and far less focused on what the customer wants, right? And that's a really hard place to be, because the minute you start focusing on yourself and what you want to do and you want to make and you want to design and how you want to do things without consideration for the customer, that's the place where you start losing attention, you start losing sales. So thinking about like maybe where you were at before you started dyeing or before you started designing or tech editing, like what things were you struggling with that made you go, oh, this is the business that I need to create? That would be a good way to start. I'm going to stop talking for like 30 seconds so that you can write. If you want to share some things about your ideal customer, maybe just a couple lines or a line about them in the chat, that would be great too. I'd love to see them. All right, so I'm going to just read a couple of these examples that we've got. So, Catherine, my ideal client like opinions and likes to discuss back their opinions. They like to know the why. They like to learn. They don't blindly agree with me. So, someone who's maybe a little willful, a little headstrong, someone who knows where they stand on things. Those are really actually kind of fun customers and clients to have, because they make you think, they make you both learn. You both have to learn from each other if you are sitting from different ends of the spectrum on things. I kind of like that. Knitting designers who see beauty in small details, who want their documents to reflect purpose and grace in every aspect. Okay, I like it. I like it. So here's the thing, Becky. I want to see a little bit more specificity, right? So what does it mean to have purpose and grace in every aspect, right? Like, it sounds beautiful. It sounds beautiful, but in practicality, like in practical terms, what does that mean? You don't have to answer right now, but just something to think about. My ideal customer lives within an hour of my farm and cares deeply about supporting local businesses and farms. They want to know the story of their yarn and meet the animal that grew it. Fantastic. Yep. Honing in on even like lives within an hour of my farm. That's very specific. That will get you pretty far going forward. All right, so someone who is a bit nerdy or intellectual, they're ambitious and looking for new and different ways to be engaged and challenged. Yes, Jen. So Jen does the really, really, really intricate brioche like design so far. But I would also say, like, too, since I know a little bit of what you do, I would also say that they probably are somebody who wants like showstopper pieces, like somebody who like really wants everybody to pay attention. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. That's why I've knit a Jen Parasini sweater before, is because I wanted to show up my sister-in-law who started knitting, who we have a tenuous relationship, but doesn't matter. I just want to be the better knitter in the family. Okay, so all right, Connie is my ideal customer is Erica. She's in her mid-40s, teaches middle school French. You can tell Connie's done some work here. Loves bird watching. Hey. Has 3 dogs, 2 goats. She's a maven. She loves to learn new things and connect with the people behind the products she buys. Yes. Okay, so, okay, Kirsten. All right, Kirsten, here's my very first thing. Women 35 to 50, chop it down. If you absolutely have to do a range, no more than 4 years. No more. Ideally, get it down to one person. No ranges. No ranges. One person. I even do this with my bigger brands when they really fight me on this. It's like, no, you have to get very specific because somebody who's 35 has a different set of beliefs and values and like shopping habits than somebody who's 50. Like they're very different. So getting that really narrowed down will be really helpful for you, just for you, when you target people in the way that you speak, if that makes sense. Okay. So anyway, love shopping at Williams Sonoma. Can't resist a Target trip. Loves lattes, red wine, traveling, knits, crochets to be engaged and fill their wardrobe with the lace and texture pieces that elevate a more casual everyday wardrobe. Kids or pets and a partner that they prioritize. Other hobbies include baking, home decor, and brunch. Okay. We're getting there. Oh, hold on. A couple people looks like got kicked out. Getting them back in. All right. Deirdre, so the common thread with all my hero customers is that they are personally invested in me and my success. They become knitting fiber friends and share that with everyone they know. Is that an actual ideal customer? They're buying from you, yes. Yeah. So sometimes, especially when we are single person brands, we're gonna go over an hour, y'all. Just so you know, but sometimes with single person brands, if we are putting ourselves forward a lot, in our marketing, which is everyone's personal choice, right? You get to decide how much you're comfortable putting forward. If you're really like anti-capitalist, I'm not monetizing like my life or anything about it, or I'm very private, yada yada, that's fine. But you have to find ways around that, right? But there are certain things that like we connect to each other on a human level as well. So if we are the only person within our business talking about ourselves and what we experience tends to draw people to us. And so sometimes being the person that you are can be a defining factor. And I mean, I'm a bit weird in a lot of ways. Like I swear, I'm kind of kooky. Everyone knows I love birds. Like there are some of those like really weird things that like allow people to connect with me outside above and beyond like what I teach, right? Like I get bird memes all the time. People send me bird memes constantly. And it's okay. I love them. I love them. Even if I've seen them 900 times already, I love them because I love birds. Not raptors, just birds. And songbirds, preferably, or ducks, just in case you're thinking about memeing me something. But I do think that as long as they are purchasing from you, I think that they count. Think that they count. And if you can find other common threads and those may appear later, that's okay. That's okay. Okay, so I'm going to go through a couple more of these here. So ideal customer is a knitter who's a parent, who doesn't chase every fashion trend, who prefers a classic style, likes indie dyed yarns, and does not like patterns with a lot of difficult techniques that require multiple tutorials, but appreciates it when they're included as necessary. Okay, yeah, I like that. I do agree that like classic seems to be like, you can kind of go one way or the other, right? Like you're either like really classic or you're like very complicated. And if you get in the middle, it gets a little bit harder. Not to say that it can't be done, but like you really have to then kind of find another thing that really sets you apart, whether that's aesthetic, whether that's like humor, whether that's your personality, that kind of thing. I realize we're kind of digging a little bit deeper into some other things that are not exactly like just positioning statement. I love talking ideal customer. That's why I'll even send you guys a free workshop. I have a workshop that I did for Bat and Kill Fibers for their customers, and they let me have the recording. I'll send that to you guys too. Okay, so Becky is coming back with getting more detailed. Someone who is not only willing but excited to invest into the nitty gritty of line space, seeing visual balance on the page, punctuation, wording. Okay, seeking excellence. Okay, yeah, definitely. I think like that kind of like really super nerd, like aesthetic is really important, layout is really important, etc. Also, Becky, I think should be something about your schematics. Everybody and their dog is like obsessed with your schematics, so I think there's something you really need to like bring those front and center. Okay, so Marin, my ideal customer is a mom in 30s, early 40s, is married, has a kid, but doesn't like to be put in the mom box. Yep, she works, she loves her jobs, also demanding one. She knits to wind down and to forget the ugliness of life. Okay, so sorry to send out really smooth, there's more. Okay, good. Let's see here. Isabel, knitting with utility in mind, can be more casually to work, hiking, on a plane, for a nap. Ideal customer is knitting garments and accessories that are meant to be used and used a lot, detailed, and then used a ton more. Oh, Isabel, you should team up with Gleaner. Have you ever had a Gleaner? You should look them up. They like to team up with designers. FYI. Okay, and ideal customer, Growth Gen X, opposite of the mainstream, cynical about big corporations, values art just because it exists, loves small biz, has kids and pets, works outside the home in a care role, optimistic and also a bit cynical, loved when their kids were little. Oh man, and you can tell you live in San Francisco. That sounds like everyone in San Francisco. Sounds so dreamy. But yeah, I love it. That's very specific, but I can entirely picture that person. So, okay. Cool. All right. Kids are becoming independent. She looks at quality, isn't afraid in where she spends her money. That's a really important point. I want to talk about that really quick, and then we'll move on. But a lot of times we get kind of hung up on the money thing in this industry, like a lot, because we are afraid to ask for it a lot of times. But also, there's like, I don't know, it causes us then to say like, okay, well, people will say they aren't going to buy my thing because of money, right? But money is going to be what everybody says on the planet when they're not going to buy something. It's the easiest thing to say like, no, I can't buy, I don't have any money, but if you can start to recognize that like, it doesn't matter whether or not some people don't have money, the person that you're selling to does have money, right? Like the person that you're selling to does have the capacity to purchase what you're selling and does believe that what you have to offer is worth the money that you're asking for. And you may need to help them to understand the value in that, because some people do really need to be talked through it. But I think it's really important to note that, this is an industry that is built on expendable income. And so we tend to really shy away from asking for money because we don't feel like people will pay for it. But people who are coming to the knitting world, 99% of the time, there are exceptions to this, but 99% of the time they have extra money to spend. That's why they're spending it here. Anyway, and there's a lot about accessibility around there, but I also truly believe that if you are not making the money that you need to pay your bills, to cover your costs, you should not be worrying about accessibility until your business is accessible to you first. So that's my soapbox. I'm moving on. Okay, so this is the other thing that's really hard. What are you the only of, or what are you the best at? Okay, so here's where we're going to talk about competitors. And as you work through this, what I want you to think about are a couple of things. First of all, who do you know that does similar work to you? Right? Like, so maybe instead of using the word competitor, I don't love to use the word competitor because there is enough room for all of us in this space. There is enough money for everyone. And we absolutely, like I said earlier, we all need each other. Whether you are two different designers designing something very similar, you still need each other regardless. So it doesn't foster a healthy environment to consider that anyone's a competitor, right? It's not healthy for you. It's not healthy for them. They're a peer. They're a peer who does something similar to you. So what I want you to think of, who are the peers that you can think of, whether you know them personally or not, you don't have to know them, that do something really similar to you, or that somebody could potentially put you in a lineup with, right? Like if there's somebody who's looking for a specific type of yarn, are you coming up in a lineup with two other like larger dyers? And if so, okay, then we need to start. This is where we start looking at who those competitors are and what we do that's a little bit different than what they do. If you want to list your competitors in the chat, you absolutely can. Or peers that do similar work. Competitors is a lot faster to say, isn't it? But also, too, being able to come forward and say, like, actually, I am good at this. That's a challenge, right? We don't want to be arrogant. Like Connie said, she doesn't want to say she designs non-ugly crochet because she feels like she's attacking others. And that's not really what it is, right? It's saying that, hey, by the way, I make crochet that's really great. Like it's owning it, right? It's stepping forward and saying like, yes, I actually do take responsibility for this and say, yes, I can make really beautiful crochet designs and you're actually going to think they're beautiful, right? Like that's different than saying like, hey, by the way, every other crochet designer is like doing a terrible job, right? So it's not necessarily arrogant, but you also too, you have to believe in the quality of your work And you have to believe in your products because your customer is going to see that. If they see you hemming and hawing and being like, I'm probably not the person you should actually be buying from. I've heard people say things like this. Like, it's like there are better people to buy from. Okay, you're never going to make any money. You have to be the one that says like, hey, I am doing great. I love the work that I'm doing. I think it would benefit you greatly. Here's why. The end, right? So think about that for a couple seconds. And if you do have something that you feel like, hey, listen, I am really good at this in comparison to others around me, I would love to see that in the chat. Absolutely love it. Because I think this will be the hardest for most of us. It's hard for me. I'll just put it that way. Like it can be really, really challenging. Because I know I'm not the best. I don't know the most. But I don't know. I work hard to make sure that I meet the answers, like to answer the questions that my people have and like give them the things that they need. Okay, so I've been compared to Stitch Together Studio and Hedgehog Fibers. I love doing complex, bright colors that work together. All right, so then Deirdre, the second part of that is then like, what is it that makes you different from them? Whether you use the word better or the word different. Again, this is internal. So this is why it's like, own it, because you're the only one who's going to see it. And maybe you need to own it for yourself so that you can start believing that a little bit more. Okay, so this is why I struggle with marketing my schematic services, because I'm next level in time, cost, and obsessiveness when compared to most of my peers. Okay, I want to know why that's a struggle though. I see that as like unique value proposition, also called a USP. Like, yeah, I'm more expensive, but my schematics are like killer. Everybody loves them. I would want to own that. I mean, that's the thing is like, if you really are having a hard time standing out in the crowd, you've got to find the thing that you can own, right? Like, I'm not the only person helping fiber businesses. I know that. But most of the people are just focusing on designers, possibly tech editors. But we're doing everybody, right? Okay, so many designers have such small margins. I feel bad saying he's been. Okay, great. Let's talk about this a little bit, like, because that's a guilt thing, right? Like, and I trust me, I struggle with this too. There are memberships out there that give probably, well, they're different than mine, right? They're different than mine, but they cost more. I was offered the opportunity to acquire a company that had a membership, and they were like, "Oh yeah, well our membership right now runs at $250 a month," and I was like, "My people can't afford that. Like, there's no way. There's no way. I don't want to do that. I'm going to box everybody out." And there's that, right? There's that element of being like, I realistically know what people in this industry can afford, hence why I'm typically cheaper than most, especially membership wise, maybe not as much agency wise. But at the same time, like, you also have to be paid for your time and the value that you bring. So Becky, for instance, like if you are going to be more expensive, but you're going to be higher quality, then more people are going to know that you're higher quality and are either going to be willing to spend the money or they're not. And if they're not willing to spend the money, then maybe they're not your people, right? Like, it's okay. It's okay to have, clientele that can afford more. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, right? And you can add, I mean, like, you can always offer scholarships or whatever. I mean, you can do all the things, but I wouldn't feel guilty about it. I would try not to feel guilty about it. It's really hard, really, really hard. Okay, so Laura says, I'm gosh darn good at, Laura, at identifying attractive trends and translating the style into a stunning garment or accessory and into a magazine format pattern. Great, that's fantastic. I'm a good mentor. I'm also incredibly kind when I'm giving feedback, so I'm going to own that. Yep, and I know that's been a big thing for you, is figuring out like how to just be really supportive, right? Like sometimes just like, again, like especially when Catherine, she works more like kind of like on service-based types of things. Like a lot of your personality is part of what you're going to sell, because people are working with you and not like just like a yarn or a design or whatever. Even though I would say that you can still interact with somebody's personality in those situations. But, you know, like if you work more in a one-to-one setting, like which I do, the people, they do need to like you in order to put up with you. Um, anyway, so okay, so I combine advanced techniques like brioche cables and ferrule, or all three. That's a lot. Create a novel design aesthetic and allow knitters to make something truly unique. Yep, showstoppers. Showstoppers. Big, big, complex. None of that easy stuff. And I know people who gun for that kind of thing. Are there tons of people that gun for that versus super easy stuff? That's the question, right? Like, are there enough people to gun for that kind of thing that you can still meet your goals? Probably. Probably. We just need to find them, right? Okay. Catherine says, I also recommend your schematics, Becky, other than mine. I do them, but mine are basic. I would rather spend time elsewhere. See? Yeah, that's a great point. You're both tech editors, but you all focus on different areas, right? Like, I think that's really cool. Marian says, I know my pattern layout is exceptionally beautiful, calming, and easy to read. They hold the perfect balance of information and fun add-on without being overwhelming. I also know my newsletters are inspiring and entertaining. They also look great. So, Marian, I think a lot of what like we've spoken about and what I'm hearing you saying, there's a lot of aesthetic in there. Like somebody who really likes a specific aesthetic, who likes things to look a certain way, because looks and aesthetics do evoke feelings. So I think there's something really to dig into that. And I know you're doing Jen and I's workshop this weekend, so we'll talk more about that then. Isabel says, I think because I'm not super trend conscious, I'm good at creating patterns that really work for the utility-based customer that I cater for. Oh, okay. Isabel, now I have so many ideas. It's like hand knits for people who like Patagonia or whatever, you know, like something like that, right? I like that. I think you could really work with that and really get honed in to something really unique there. Oh, sorry. Okay, Mary. The next weekend. All right. So I'm part of a large creative stay-at-home mother community, not all fiber related. I don't see any other designers in my community, so I own that 100%. I can tackle almost any knitting technique and love to include unique techniques and designs. Okay, cool. So yeah, so if you are specifically working within and marketing to a specific community, then that definitely is something that can make you stand apart. Okay, really good at creating nerding patterns that aren't really on the nose or derivative. I'm also very good connecting with my ideal customer and sometimes even connecting them to each other. I'm open, I'm vulnerable, and damn it, I'm funny. My big red-headed Leo energy self-stands out with my patterns. That's why common thread is twofold: knitting patterns and community. I love it. It's great. You could do some Aja shawls. That would be great from Wheel of Time. The only ones I've seen are from before the show came out, but I don't think they do them very well in the show either, so I need some decent Aja shawls. Okay, gonna keep moving forward here. All right, so now what are the benefits of your brand? I'm gonna take a drink here while you think on it. Remember I said I'm gonna give you guys like quiet time? No quiet time. Constant monologue. Okay, so the benefits of your brand, there can be multiple types of benefits. You can have functional benefits, emotional benefits. There's more. I'm trying to think of what my brain is trying to tell me right now, as far as I have a list of them somewhere because I use these all the time. Yeah, so sometimes you've got more of like your mission-based things in there, Deirdre. That is correct. So when we think of the different types of benefits, you can go all the way from like tangible benefits to intangible. So when you look at tangible, this is like literally, what does it do? Like, what does your product do? All the way down to like, how does this product help someone feel the way that they want to feel? How does it help them become or reaffirm the type of person that they want to become? And that's a really huge one, because when you look at functionality, sometimes, especially within this industry where, you know, you can only go so far with yarn. Like, what's the function of yarn? To help you make shit, I don't know, like you knit things, right? Like, but I mean, like, how do you then go up and up and up and up from that, and farther out from just functional? So how does your yarn make someone feel? How does it like help them reaffirm values? So this is where you get into that ethical stuff. So if you are someone who believes strongly in ethical sourcing, or maybe you want to buy directly from, you know, the shepherd, like you source all your dyer, but you source everything from a shepherd, then that's where you're going to lean into. So, like if you're going to have your own farm and you are a shepherd, then you're going to be looking at things like, you know, how you treat your animals, or, you know, the different practices that you put into place. And that, for shepherds specifically, that can be a little bit challenging because you do have to be really transparent. A lot of people don't realize some of the very hard things and decisions that are required of a shepherd that they have to make. So, okay, let's see here. Let me get out these here. Okay, so you can have, okay, so you can dip into their personal values, right? Which is what we talked about. Like, what do they believe? How does this reaffirm what they believe? Um, Emotional benefits. What does it make them feel like? You know, what are they going to compare themselves to? What does it do? What does it actually do? And then, like, what is it? You know, those are the different benefits. So think of those for a second, of, you know, maybe what some of those different benefits are. You can hone in on one of those, you can hone in on all of them. I will be quiet for a minute, but I'd love to see your thoughts in the chat, of course. All right, anybody yet? Anybody come up with any benefits they want to share? Or is this something we're really struggling with? Well, they're both, right? So to clarify, are these benefits I'm saying the customer gets, or actual benefits, or both, right? Like that's where we go from the intangible to tangible. So let me use another example. So I also work with Camellia Fiber Company. Okay, so she is a yarn dyer. She really focuses on very soft, romantic palettes. So we've talked about how, you know, you've got. Uh, so there's this whole thing of like, all right, so what is the yarn? What is it? Okay, so it's yarn, right? It's hand dyed yarn, moving towards like all natural, right? Like, so there's something in there. Okay, so moving towards all natural. What does it do? So okay, so it allows somebody to create their favorite pieces in their wardrobe, right? Like, I mean, yeah, that's kind of throwaway, but I mean, it's true. You know, you can have some throwaway things. You're going to, right? We all will have some throwaway things. Like if I say the words that like you will feel empowered, like everybody and their dog says that somebody's gonna feel empowered when they do a workshop, right? It's not anything, but it's true, you know. So okay, but we can also look at that and say like, okay, that's not the thing that makes me stand out. So if it allows them to do that, okay, so then it's, what's it going to make them feel like? Well, we came up with it. It's going to make them feel like the heroine in their own story, like their own romance novel, right? They're going to be the Viscountess, knitting in their country garden uh, in the whatever 1800s, knitting beautiful pieces. Like that's what they're going to be. That's what they're going to be feeling like. And then the values really, like the values are that this is a brand that really focuses on inclusivity. It's a brand that really focuses on, um, ethics, ethical standards, moving towards that natural state, progress over perfection. There's loads of those different aspects of it, right? So you just have to figure out what are some of those things. So when I think about like my group, which I'll show you some examples of my positioning statement in a second, but we have a very engaged community, and they opt often to put themselves in accountability groups. And they create basically their own network of coworkers, whereas we're all single business owners, but now we all have coworkers. And we do co-work together, and we brainstorm together, and we can do it in a large group, or we can do it in a smaller group, or we can do it on a partner scale. And really, you have the ability to choose your level of support based on the things that you need. So having that support is really critical as a business owner, because if you don't have anyone who understands the boat you're in, it becomes so much more difficult, right? Like, when I run through my business things, questions and things, I'm not going to run them through my husband because he's going to come up with some dumb piece of advice that doesn't make any sense or have anything to do with what I'm doing, right? But no, I'm going to go to my coworkers, which, I love my fiber business people. Like, I love them so much, and I bounce ideas off of them all the time. Um, and I think that that's really where that comes in, right? Like they feel supported. They feel like they have the resources they need. They feel like if they need resources, they can ask me and they'll get it, right? Might be a little delay, but they'll get it. Eventually they'll get it. I'm always thinking about that kind of thing. And I try to be as high touch as possible when I'm not. Try to keep my head above water so that I can be pretty interactive. So it's not just like one of those groups you show up and then you never hear from me again. Like the goal is that doesn't ever happen. Let's see here. So Maren, you don't have to feel stupid. You don't have to feel stupid whatsoever for using that. I mean, again, it's common. And it doesn't mean that it's a stupid thing. It's just that it's a common thing. So we have to find something that doesn't sound as common or as typical so that it stands out. It's memorable. People think about it a little bit more. So, okay. Try to focus on the feeling of pride and accomplishment, sense of empowerment, feel like they're a badass and can accomplish any pattern they want to try. Okay. So while that is true, again, that is something that a lot of people will say. So what I would say is well, depending on how you like to be, if you like to be funny, I would probably lean into something like, all right, so here's like the knitting so that you can, show everyone how better of a knitter you are than everyone else. Stuff like that, again, I do not shy away from the fact that that is why I sometimes make the things that I do. So that this holiday, I'm going to show up at Thanksgiving. I'm going to be wearing a very complicated sweater, and I'm going to wait until my mother-in-law makes a huge fuss over it right in front of my sister-in-law so that I can get the kudos, right? It sounds so petty, but I just have this weird competition thing going on with her, and I have to win. So it's very critical for me. I also think it's kind of funny. Healthy? No. Funny? Yes. Okay. Let's see here. Right. Focus is on upcycling innovative solutions, not going backwards to a slow living, nature-based traditional life. Okay. Yeah, that's really interesting. That is unique. So you have to find the words that work with that. So upcycling is a good one. I wouldn't go with modern. I hate that word. It means so many different things, but it's such a throwaway. I don't like to use it for anything. I have a friend who does kitchen design, and she's one of my clients, and we don't use modern for her either because it's ooh, modern means too cold, too sterile. You don't want to use that. It's very common in the kitchen world. Schematic benefits, beautiful art that doubles as reference aid to knitters. Adding benefits, confidence, pattern will be clear and accurate. Reduce knitter help emails. Ooh, reduce knitter help emails, I think is a good one. Clear and accuracy, like that's something you guys have to say as tech editors. It is common, but I understand like you kind of do need to promise that, right? Written patterns that are clear to understand help you make you feel like I'm knitting beside you. I love that. I love that. I think that's really. I share silly anecdotes about Canadian culture that remind you that I'm your friend because everyone likes Canadian. Laura, this is so good. This is so good. My designs have a lasting style that can be passed down to that snotty-nosed kid you always hope would do well for themselves. That's perfect. I love it so much. There's your about page. Okay. Yeah. So okay. So Sarah, when you're if you're struggling because you're still new, that's okay. I mean, we can kind of, like you can also kind of make things up a little bit as you go, right? Because you won't always know, like you won't always know everything at the beginning, and that's okay. You won't always know who your ideal customer is at the beginning, so you guess, right? Like you guess. So I think this is going to be my ideal customer, and when I start doing this work, this is what I want them to feel like, and this is like why I think it's beneficial for them, and this is what it's going to help them do. And here are some other tech editors that I see, and I see that they focus on XYZ. Like maybe you see, like, okay, so Becky's focusing on schematics. Schematics are not something that I'm touching yet, so I'm going to focus on something else, or you can focus on schematics too. I don't know that there aren't really that many that are super focusing on it. Not to like make you a threat to Becky or anything, but uh, anyway, but you can definitely like you can come back to this anytime, of course, but you can definitely kind of fudge your way through it, right? Again, this is just for you to start thinking about. All right, so if this is the person I'm trying to target, like how do I need, and based on like what I see everyone else who is also a tech editor, what else they're saying about their work, like how do I need to show up so that I can stand out amongst them and say, like, I'm actually going to be a good choice for you or for this type of knitter. We've got a tech editor in the FBC, and she really wants like lacy stuff. Like she just wants to tech edit all the lacy things. So, and that's something I've tried to get her to lean into. Talk about like lacy accessories, lacy accessories. I'm your lady. I'm your lady. Right? Where some people are like, I only want to do sweaters, or I never want to do sweaters, or I never want to do accessories, or I only want to help new knitters, like, or new designers, or I only want to work with seasoned designers. Like there are loads of ranges. You just have to be confident enough to say like, yes, this is where I plant my flag, right? So if you say like, I love working with seasoned knitters, like if you've been doing this forever and you want an extra pair of eyes that like also has been doing this forever, we are a good match. Does it mean a brand new knitter can't come to you and say like, hey, I want help. Will you reject me because I've never done it before? No. I mean, you could. I mean, if that's your thing, you can absolutely do that. Like you have the right to do that. But don't be worried about rejecting anyone else, right? You're focusing on on attracting the person you want, and you also do kind of have to repel the person that you don't. So there's that. I don't know if that helps. Um, okay, all right. I see the line saying that without sounding like a jerk is difficult. So let's read this line. Okay. Um, okay, and I'll come back to you, Connie, too, because I have a thought here. So I think my designs are for people who are more conscious about who they buy from. My designs play with shapes that are less popular in the crochet world, but popular in knit. It's hard because I know people follow and purchase from me because I'm a Black designer. I don't feel bad about that because I'm taking that energy and dollars and investing in promoting other BIPOC members of the community. Saying that without sounding like a jerk is difficult. I don't think it sounds like a jerk at all. I think it sounds the opposite of a jerk. Sounds like I mean, that's the thing. Is like, taking someone's money is not a bad thing. When they willfully hand you their money, when you have not like manipulated it out of their hands, is not bad. Like, and okay, so yeah, I know you're buying from me because I'm Black. Okay, that's not your problem. That's their problem. And is it a problem? No, because you're getting the money, right? Like, there's nothing. I don't see anything that's about like a jerk. But like, yeah, if you're somebody who's conscious, like you want to include some of the knit textures in your crochet or the knit shapes in your crochet, which is a very valid thing, by the way. Being somebody who does knit and crochet, like honestly, like I would crochet every day of the week if I could because it's so much faster. But I don't like many of the patterns because I'm drawn to the knitting patterns. So that kind of feeds into both what Connie has been saying and what Brittany, what you're saying is that, like, okay, I'm going to take some of these knit aspects and we're putting them into the crochet. And by the way, I'm Black, give me your money. Okay, there's nothing wrong with that. Like nothing. You're owning part of why people want to give you the money, right? It's correcting a lot of issues, right? Like, you know, anyway, I don't think you're being a jerk. We can talk about that more later. But anyway, so, okay, so I feel like I should say, going back to Connie, I feel like I should say something like the benefits of working from my patterns and learning with me include going on a journey or adventuring through color and texture with curiosity and confidence. Like I have these words, but I can't figure out how to put them together. All right, have you thought of metaphors? Oh my god, I love metaphors so much. But like, all right, so you know that we did this whole adventure thing, like me and Jen. So we have these workshops that we've been doing called Your Epic Business, and we do these like big, kind of like we make it very fantasy journey style, Dungeons and Dragons, Lord of the Rings themey stuff, and it's been really fun. It was really fun to put together, but it resonates with people who understand that kind of metaphor. But maybe that's something to think about is like, okay, so if we want to use the word adventure, and it doesn't have to be Lord of the Ringsy or like fantasy style, but like if you want to use the word adventure or going on a journey, like how can we lean into that metaphor so that those are the words that come forward? Because maybe the concept of what you're doing isn't necessarily unique, but the words you use can be unique, right? Like the words you use can make you stand out. I still really, and I know Jen thinks it too, I really still think you need to talk about not ugly Christian, and it's fine. One day you'll get there. We'll make you confident enough to do it. All right, so Alita, so benefit a direct, usable, or wearable connection to cute local farm animals through supporting a local fiber artist farmer. Okay, all right. Okay, direct, usable, to cute local farm animals. Really want you to lean in on the cute local farm animals part. And then lots of pictures of them. Because I think, like, if that's the thing, it's like if you have the animals, they should be in a lot of the pictures because that's what people will connect to. They love the animals. They like to hear about the animals' personalities. I don't know if you guys have ever seen, there's an account called Useless Farm, and she has like these, like she talks about all these animals like they're the worst. And that's one of my favorite things in the world is talking about things that I love as if they are actually really inconvenient. But she's got like this emu that's always trying to attack her constantly. And she's actually really vicious. But her name's Karen. They put like a poster in the emu's thing, Karen's the emu, in her stall. It says live, laugh, love. Like it's very funny. Like it's very like on the nose. And then they have like a chicken named Brad that is just, they're like, oh, he's such a fucking asshole. He's like the worst, and like stuff like that. People really start to connect with the animals because the person is giving them a narrative. And even though it's a bit lewd at times, like I think it's really funny because that's my style of humor. But sometimes when you lean into those kinds of things, like adding kind of that anthropomorphism to the animals, it becomes something that people can start to connect to. So I think that's good. Okay. All right. So, okay. Yes, go ahead. Leave if you need to. I'm so sorry. But come back for the replay. And because I'll have to hop off here pretty soon. But okay, so what's the proof? What's the proof? Okay. So when we talk about proof, we talk about this is more kind of like qualifications almost in a way, right? So if you tell me that someone is going to feel like they are a heroine in a romance novel, right? Like you're a heroine in a romance novel, then what's the proof of that, right? Like you're going to feel like a heroine in a romance novel because of the soft palettes, because of the, really soft hand feel of all the fibers, because of the focus on the natural fibers. You bring in some of those things, right? So this is more like when we say proof, it's kind of like um, what's kind of that balancing piece that makes it so like, okay, you will feel like this because of these things, right? Like you will feel, or you will have the most amazing kitchen that is fully functional, but super interesting space with tons of unique details in it because we are cabinet experts. We've been doing this for years. We love to play with it. I mean, this is getting really elaborate, right? Like this would not fit into a one sentence thing, but like, we love to find all the hidden details and try new things all the time. And that's something that what my kitchen client that she does. Like they built out their entire studio space with completely unique and kind of weird things that you wouldn't see in a typical kitchen. And it makes you walk in there and go, I never knew you could do this to a kitchen. I want this done to my kitchen. Like this is very cool. And she was very excited to show me through all the little things like, here, push this button. Here, hit your hip on this. Watch this. Watch this. Look at this. Look at this. Like it's very cool, right? It's very fun. But yeah, but the big thing is like her experience. Like she had been in doing cabinets. She's like expert cabinet designer. And nobody else around her is an expert cabinet designer the way she is. And so really kind of coming forward and saying like, yep, that's my thing. Like that's the proof. The proof is that I am really good at this. So this one's a little bit trickier. And I kind of feel like I want to show you my statement really quick so that you guys can get a good idea of kind of what I mean by this. So that's what we're going to talk about. So here is mine. I'm going to use this as for the Fiber Business Collective for this particular offer. So you can have multiple positioning statements for different things. So if you're a tech editor and you're a designer, you can have positioning statements for both. So my ideal customer for the Fiber Business Collective is usually the sole proprietor of a fiber-based business. Can be any. I mean, theoretically, we have more designers than anything else, but I really like to have everybody in there. But if you're basically the only person really doing all the work and you need help, hey. Only Best group coaching membership. There aren't that many in this industry, again. And the benefit is that it focuses on all of the areas of the industry. So this is slightly more of a tangible benefit versus an intangible benefit. But my proof is that we have a hyper engaged community. So basically, this is like these are the things that you're basically saying, like, yes, this is how you know that I'm good at what I do, right? So we have a hyper engaged community, like over 1,000 messages passed back and forth in the Slack group. I always like roll my eyes and like, oh my God, they talk too much. But it's also really wonderful that they do, and it's been a year. So I shouldn't ever complain about it. I love them. Anyway, loads of resources, right? We have tons of resources, workshops, blah, 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 but not too much to be overwhelming, just like enough that you need and can tap into as you need them. And then we accept requests from members, right? Like that's how our accountability partners got started. And groups is that somebody's like, can we have these groups? Okay, great, sure. Like I don't have time to pair you up, but I will build you a spreadsheet and you can go in and put yourselves in groups. And they do, and they freaking love it. And some of them are in multiple. So that's kind of where my proof comes in. So going forward, if we're going to put it all together, right, so you can see kind of what the proof looks like, all right, in the statement. Oops. Okay, so to the sole fiber business owner, right, the Fiber Business Collective is the only group coaching program that focuses on industry-specific knowledge because of the extremely engaged community, the extensive library of resources, and an admin team that truly listens to the needs and the desires of the members, right? Does that help a little bit more when you're looking at proof? Let me see. Am I seeing any nods? Don't know if I'm seeing any nods. I'm seeing not as many nods. All right, throw your questions in the chat if you've got them. But like, basically, what is it that you can do that shows that like, yeah, I got this. Like, so, all right, okay. Becky says that helps. Let's use Becky. So Becky says to the whatever designer, Monahan Tech Editing Services is the only tech editing service that pick a benefit, Becky. That focus. Well, that I'm just going to make one up for you. We'll just use a really generic one that allows designers to feel supported, right? Like that's a very throwaway term, but I'm just going to use it so I can get to the rest of this, okay? Because of Becky's like detailed and like we really need to praise the schematics. Everybody freaking loves the schematics. So because of the detailed schematics, the next level, you know, attention to detail and something else, right? Like I usually put these in groups of three because by the time that I get through these with a brand, they usually want a few different things highlighted, right? It's not just, oh, we want, you know, like we just want to focus on one thing, right? Like usually there's a few. So I usually put them in groups of three. Let me see what I put in. Can my proof be things like other people's experiences from you? Yeah, I mean, like if that's the thing, it's like if people are saying something, right? Like that's how we get a lot of our information, isn't it? It's like if people are saying, "Oh, this really helped me do X, Y, Z," or "I really love X, Y, Z thing." You know, the fact that we have an engaged community in Slack, like they're the ones who love that, right? They love it because they can go in and ask a question and actually get some answers, versus just getting crickets most of the time, right? Unless everybody else also has no idea what to answer the question with. But let me see here if I can pull up. I'm just gonna grab my pal's. Let me grab this really quick. I'm gonna grab her document and for the kitchen design, so you can kind of see what that looks like in action. So I make these documents for each one of my clients when they come in for marketing services. It takes about 10 hours and research and all of that kind of thing. And just moving things around so I can see everything. And so ultimately, this is kind of what the strategy ends up looking like. But when we start with the benefits, we start with the positioning statement, and then we kind of build everything else around it. So, okay, so what matters to the customer? Time for friends and family. What it makes them feel, unique, metropolitan. We decided to go with that versus like modern. What it does, it's a space for functional entertaining. What it is, it's exceptional cabinetry. Okay, it is really nice. So then basically what we've come up with, so in the eyes of the professional mom, Wolfgang Studio is the only kitchen design studio in Des Moines that offers custom cabinetry because of their attention to detail, their knowledge of up-to-date trends, and their vast experience in the industry. So they really wanted to highlight that, hey, we have tons and tons of experience here. Like nobody in the industry has as much as we do. But also, like we are totally okay with playing with trends, right? It doesn't have to be super classic all the time. We can have fun with it. We can be unique with it. So that is an example, another example outside of mine. Does that any more help? Does that clear it up a little bit more? So, okay, so I have a Master of Arts. I've been working in the creative industry for over a decade as a senior art director with the focus on experiences for global players. Not sure if this is what you're asking for. I mean, like you can include that, right? Like you can put like experience, you know, with my experience in, you know, the, or like, yeah, how would you put it? Something about those experiences because you really build an environment, right? Thanks, Amy. Sorry, we went over, guys. I'm gonna wrap it up here because I gotta get to another meeting here in just a couple minutes. But basically, yeah, it's something that kind of really centers around like the experience. Okay, the proof to a knitwear design business. Yeah, I mean, like that's the thing. Is like, okay, so it's the only one that focuses on like, okay, so it's the only one that is okay, so it's the best for adventurous and like super complicated designs because I shouldn't say that, right? Like sometimes when you say like super complicated, I don't know. I don't know if that's a put off or it's like a come on. You know, there's a lot of ways that people interpret it. Depends on who your customer is. But okay, so because of like your because of the use of multiple complex stitches in each piece, because of, you know, like why, like what is it that basically reflects the fact that this is why I'm saying that I am the best at this, right? Like this is why I'm saying that I'm the best choice for somebody who wants something really complicated, because I will use multiple, you know, super intricate design elements in one piece, because I will pick something that causes everybody to turn their heads and stop and stare at you, because, you know, since is that better? Is that a little bit better? Okay, good. All right. Oh well. Okay, so I feel like knitters are already so anti against designers. I don't think that's true, by the way. Always using expensive yarns, money, yada yada yada. That it's kind of hard to go with professionalism. I don't know. I think you can do it. Like, I mean, again, keep in mind, this is a statement for you, right? This statement specifically is just for you. It's not for anyone else. So when you kind of come into this space and you're saying like, listen, like I'm going to be the best choice for your patterns because like I'm dedicated to aesthetics. I'm dedicated to building an experience around your, you know, around your knitting project, right? Like saying it kind of like that, you're still kind of incorporating it, right? Because you build experiences, right? So, and that's something that you want to do in the way that the pattern is laid out. So because of the experiences that are built throughout the layout of the pattern, the, you know, the other, whatever, design elements, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it's kind of hard to say, again, I'm like spitballing here a lot of times. Again, these take me like 10 hours to make. So in 2 minutes is about the best that I can give you. But like taking those elements of like, hey, listen, like I actually am good at this and I am the one you want to go with. And this is why. It's because I do this. It's because I believe this. It's because I will ensure that you feel like this, right? Like that's what you need to do. This is an ownership exercise for you more than anyone else of just like, listen, yeah, I'm great. I'm awesome. Please believe me. You know, like that's really what we're looking at. So to the discerning crocheter, Connie is the best teacher and designer who encourages you to crochet with curiosity and confidence because of the attention to detail in her patterns, helpful resources, and nurturing support. We're getting closer. Some of these are still like kind of like blanket terms. Curiosity and confidence are kind of blanket terms. Curiosity I'm seeing a lot more than I used to. Confidence is very, very widely used. So discerning also, I would probably get rid of that. You want to get so specific that it like hurts, right? Like to the picky crochet. Look, Connie, you got to do this. To the picky crocheter, Connie is the best teacher and designer who encourages you to crochet more than knit because of her designs not being ugly. Anyway, there's a lot of strength in things like that. Okay, so we are super, super running out of time here. I am pretty sure here, like, okay, so you guys can keep kind of putting a couple things in the comments because we'll save these, right? But what I want to do, I don't know if I have any other slides to show you guys from this particular thing. I think that was it. Take a few minutes. Okay, willing to share, blah, 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 blah. All right, yeah. And then the other thing is that, you know, if you do want to try the Fiverr Business Collective, blah, 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 here's my sales pitch at the end. 30-day trial for free. You can do it. Goes through November 6th. And then we'll drop it down to just regular price. It's $31 a month. It's really not the worst. I know it feels like, it can feel like that. But the value that people get out of it, they seem to really, it floors me actually, the things that they say. They enjoy so much of it. And I'll talk about that this week on social media and in the emails and everything. But yes, I appreciate you all coming and being here and sticking around so long. Sorry this took way more than 60 minutes. But Yep, Brittany, you got it. You got it. That's perfect. Okay. Well, again, thank you. I'll send you the replay and we'll talk soon, guys. Come on Wednesday, or at least watch Wednesdays later. Bye bye.